Hello, everyone. Welcome to another video interview. And this time we are interviewing Dr. Mohan. He graduated from the University of Toronto Faculty of Dentistry, and right now he is in law school, a very diverse and different background than all other people that we have interviewed so far. So today it's me, Ruzbe, and Liz, and then we are interviewing Dr. Mohan. So hello, Dr. Mohan. Thank you so much for giving us your time today.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me on the show.
Awesome. So I guess I want to start with, if possible, give us a brief introduction to yourself. Where did you grow up, and what was your childhood like, and then what motivated you to consider dentistry as your first career choice?
Yeah, sure thing. So I grew up in the GTA. I'm the son of two Trinidadian immigrants who both moved here. Um, and yeah, I grew up all my life in the GTA. I lived in Ajax for most of my life. And for me, the journey kind of started sort of young in both of ways, both of my career as a dentist and also now my pursuit in law school as I have family that's in healthcare and my mom's a lawyer. So I kind of had both sides of the spectrum growing up sort of exposed to me. But at first it was the sciences that definitely spoke to me. The sciences spoke to me. So that's why, by the time I was in grade 12, I was like, all right, I'm going to be a dentist. Didn't want to be a doctor because I know what that lifestyle was like and I didn't want that. So I went and was like, I'm going to go into dental school. And I mean, it's easy to say that, and it's a lot harder to actually do it. But thankfully, I was able to, get into U of T for dentistry and had a great time there. Graduated in 2013, and that is when I started my dental practice there, just working in the GTA. And I did that for the next 7 years before just this past September starting back at U of T, this time though for law school.
That's awesome.
So, could you tell us a bit about what it was like within your practice? Did you own the practice? Did you purchase it, or was it a startup? And what motivated you to pursue that?
So I was an associate. I worked in a couple different offices, but I also worked for Ultima Dental throughout the entire time. Throughout my entire time, I worked with Ultima Dental, which is one of the corporations I'm sure you might have heard about or seen one of the offices about because there are many of them throughout the province. Um, so I worked with them throughout, and I always worked as an associate, and I think that's kind of always what I wanted to do. Even if I were to just continue being a dentist, I think I probably would have stayed as an associate because one of the things that I enjoyed about being an associate is that I was able to just focus on my patient care so much, focus on the patients, focus on, you know, any of the issues that arise in their individual cases without having to then at the end of that have to worry about, okay, who's going to be working on this day, which supplies do we need to order and stuff like that. So just being able to focus on the patients was to me the most important thing, and that's why, at least for the near near future, I definitely saw myself only being an associate and just taking care of the patient job, which for me was definitely enough.
Mm.
So,
That's
and then,
awesome to hear.
what prompted you to pursue law? Was it a decision that you made while in dental school or while working as a dentist?
So the decision to go to law was definitely a later decision than most people. Um, it was around maybe 5 years into practicing as a dentist that I realized that for me personally, just doing dentistry was not going to be something that would be enough for me until I retired. It was not something that I could see myself solely doing for the next 40 plus years or so. Not that I didn't enjoy dentistry. There are definitely a lot of aspects of dentistry that I enjoyed doing. I just knew that the challenges that arose in dentistry were not the type of challenges that I sort of enjoyed. So for example, the difficulty of, that very tough extraction that you have, or the very, very difficult root canal, those are, for some people, that is the greatest thing in the world when you succeed at them. For me, it was more a case of when I finally got that tooth out, it was just a big sigh of relief. It wasn't, I didn't feel that reward for completing the challenge there. And so I started thinking of where else I wanted to go. As I said, my mom's a lawyer, so law had been something that had been something that I thought about doing before, and it's one of the first areas that I looked into potentially going back to school for. Wasn't an easy decision to even think about going back to school. It's hard after, because now it's been 7 years since I'd been last in school, to then think to go back and of all the things to go back to, one of the heaviest read-in type of programs that one could possibly go back
Yeah.
into. So it was definitely a lot of thinking that I had to do in order to decide to do it. But at the end of the day, I realized that one of the good things about law is that I don't necessarily need to completely eliminate dentistry from my life. There are definitely ways that I can take the experience of what I've done as a dentist and incorporate it into my future practice, whether it's just exclusively as a lawyer or even potentially, being a lawyer working primarily with dentists and then also maybe doing a little bit of dentistry still on the side.
That's
Mhm.
awesome. So, how would you envision yourself as someone who has both a degree in law and in dentistry? So, we're just curious at how would you plan, you think you would be able to combine these two?
So a lot of it would be more just from the 7 years of experience that I had that I think would pay off more so than the actual dental degree itself. So
Mhm.
the way that it would help me is, especially if I do end up deciding to go forward with my plan to mainly be working with dentists in the future, I would be a lot I'd be more able to understand all the different concerns that dentists have that, the average lawyer would not be able to understand. I'd be able to understand the importance when, purchasing an office or um, different staffing issues and the stuff that comes along with that, even some patent type stuff that I would have just a little bit more inside knowledge about that the average person would not be able to have. Um, and there's also the possibility, as I said, of potentially splitting up my time where, even though I'll most likely would have to mostly work as a lawyer and only part-time be a dentist, but still being able to, still get into that hands-on work, which is still rewarding, and doing both of those things at the same time. But it would still likely have to be a majority being a lawyer and starting in that front, and then just using my knowledge that I've built up over my years as a dentist, that to help other dentists and help them with any of the legal issues that they might have.
No,
Right.
that's awesome. Good to know.
And I'm curious, how has the transition been from dental school? I know you took a few years of work experience as well, but in terms of the admissions process and as well the different learning structures and completely different fields, have you found one more challenging than the other?
They're challenging in different ways. They're both very challenging. Dental school is very challenging, and thus far law school has also been very challenging. The difference is, in dental school, we're busy from the beginning of the day to the end of the day with, we have lectures, and then we have our labs, and we have, you know, other labs, and then we have more lectures, and it's just all that. Then we have to call our patients to try to book them in. There's all these sort of things that we have in dental school that make for a very busy, compact day. And then when we go home, yeah, we have some readings to do, but for the most part, when you go home, you can relatively take it easy. In law school, there's not a lot of class actually. Law school does not have a lot of class relatively. I have 2 to 3 classes a day, and I even have Fridays off right now, for example. That's something that would not be heard of at all in dentistry. But the thing is, the time off when I'm not in class is spent reading,
Mm.
and then the time at night is spent reading, and then the time in the morning it's spent reading.
Mhm.
So the difficulty is definitely they're difficult in their own ways. Dentistry has a lot of those physical challenges. It's a lot of back to back to back. You've got to be on the ball, and you're taking care of patients come your second and third year. You start taking care of patients, and that has its own challenges in itself. Law has its own law's challenge is that there's a lot that you need to learn. There's a lot of reading that you have to do, and there's a lot of stuff you have to process. There's a lot of information that you have to process and collate in your head. And to say one is more difficult than the other, I guess I would say at the moment law is more difficult, but that's just because I've already graduated from dental school. So I know I've been able to do that. Whereas in law, I'm only still at the beginning stages. But I wouldn't say either of them are easy.
Mhm.
And they are both very challenging careers. So, what area of law are you interested in? So, let's say all different branches. Is it like healthcare law, or is it another branch that you're interested
So the one thing that I've gone into my law school experiences is that I wanted to keep a very open mind because there are so many different fields of law. However, even keeping that open mind, I do kind of tend towards more like business sort of law. So looking at stuff like contracts and things like that. And also the other one is called torts, but that's basically your malpractice. That's basically so my mindset has been kind of focused towards that possibility of in the future, focusing on things that dentists would be most interested in, like as I said, contracts, and keep in mind also, even some labor stuff will come in there, and but malpractice stuff in there as well is also kind of an interesting sort of field that
in?
I'm kind
Right.
of keeping my eye out in there for.
That's awesome.
Right.
So, have you faced any adversity during your journey so far, Dr. Mohan, that you would like to share with us? Because we understand you've had a very long journey so far, I guess, going back to school again. You mentioned was difficult, but any other specific adversity that you think was is like might be interesting for our audience and you feel really proud of overcoming?
Mm, I would say I've been fairly lucky to not have any explicit adversity, especially as a person of color, as a black person who, well, let's put it this way. When I was in dental school, there were 3 years of the 4 years where I was the only black person at dental school.
Wow.
It's not, it wasn't very diverse. It wasn't very, I shouldn't say it wasn't very diverse. There were a lot of black people in dental school.
Mhm.
And um, it's definitely, even though I was isolated from that front, though, I would never say I noticed anything explicitly from anyone. There, there are the little things here and there
Mhm.
that do, you know, do kind of happen. But I would say I was lucky to not have experienced anything too expressly overt or anything like that. Um, in terms of other challenges, though, one of them, now going back to school as a mature student, that is always a bit very difficult. Um, Part of that is a it's been so long since I've opened a textbook, so
Mhm.
that
Right.
was the first thing that was, hard to get back to. But also just being in a different stage of life.
Mhm.
Comparing myself from when I was in dental school, where I went, just the straight K to DDS, to now comparing myself, the K to the JD people. I am now 7 years older than I was. Actually, I'm 10 years older than I was when I started, basically.
Mhm.
And at the time when I started dental school, didn't have any family or anything like that. Now
Mhm.
that I'm starting law school, I'm married, I have a kid, I have a 4 year old. So, I
Mhm.
mean, having a 4 year old while you're trying
Read.
to, do all these law readings is not the easiest thing in the world. So if there's any adversity that I've been through, it's been, being a parent while trying to go
Mhm.
back to school. But thankfully, she's been great for me so far.
That's awesome.
And we heard that you're working with the Black Law Students Association, and we were hoping you could speak a bit more about that, and if you see a bit more diversity in the field of law, or how you're hoping to bring light to that issue.
Yeah. So the thing with, but yeah, so yeah, I do work at the Black Law Students Association at the University of Toronto, and U of T in particular has not had the greatest representation of black people in law either. It's for many years it also has been a very um, maybe one or two students, and the U of T law class has 200 people per year, so it's almost double what the dental school has, even though it's only 3 years. But um, despite that, 2 years ago and 3 years ago, there was only one black student per year in the law faculty. And the good thing is that U of T realized that there's a problem there, and they've started initiatives to try and correct that. So we have the Black Future Lawyers program, which aims to go after pre-law students and high school students and just try and get them involved in the field of law, because in general, not just in UFT but throughout the profession, there aren't a lot of black lawyers out there. There are not that many black lawyers, and it is something that, as part of the Black Law Students Association, we're trying to change and trying to help the Black future lawyers, um, just get more Black people interested in law. And um, it's starting to work. For example, the year before me, there were 3 Black people, which is still not great. I'm not, any of these numbers I'm saying aren't great, but they're improvements, and I'm recognizing the improvements that have been there. And in my year, there are 8 Black people. So when you're coming from 1 person to 8, that's a great improvement.
Oh,
Sure, it's still only 8 out of 200, and that is not great. But to go from 1 to 8, you're seeing the signs of improvement, and it does look like that program is working. And we're just working to continue to improve the diversity in the practice of law, which is something I wish I did more when I was in dental school, was to you know improve the Black experience. But I think because I was, as I said, literally the only Black person there for all those years, I couldn't even begin to think of how I would go about doing it. And it's something that I wish I had done, because dentistry is another field that is severely lacking
mm,
in Black professionals.
for
And
sure.
um, it is one of my regrets that I did not do more to try and help with that when I was in school.
Well, right now with this interview, for sure, I think you've helped us a lot in achieving our mission, which really aligns with yours as well, which is improving diversity in the profession of dentistry. That's for sure. So, do you have any advice, Dr. Mohan, for the dental students that right now are considering other professions other than dentistry? Because when people bring it up, then sometimes there is this assumption that, oh, this person wasn't sure that dentistry was the right choice for them or not from the beginning, and they might be looked down upon when they bring up the idea of changing their careers. So there might be some stigma associated with it. So do you have any advice for those people, or have you ever felt that sort of a stigma, or no?
I wouldn't say it's so much a stigma to have changed my profession so much.
Mhm,
I mean, all my colleagues that I worked with in my various offices have all been very supportive of me and
mhm,
everything like that. So there hasn't been stigma from that front. That said, it's not, as I said, it's not an easy change to make.
right.
It is hard to go full, to make the switch that I made and have worked for as long as I had, and not just and gone through and gone your full degree and then made the switch.
Mhm,
um, Obviously, if I could, I would probably go back and not have done all of everything if I knew that where I wanted to be right now.
mhm,
Um, but I don't regret the time that I spent as a dentist either, though. The one thing I would say to anybody who's either in dentistry right now or is considering going into dentistry, and the same is true for any sort of profession, is to just not get too laser focused on it, that you tunnel vision yourself to any other possibilities.
mhm,
And that can include, though, other possibilities in dentistry.
mhm,
So this means not just becoming a general dentist. Uh, there are certain people I know who have gone into various specialties that would not have lasted if they stayed as a general dentist, but
mhm,
absolutely love the specialty that they've gone into. Always keep in mind when you're going through school, if once you do enter dental school, uh, think about what sort of procedures you like to do.
mhm,
um, do you like doing restorative work? Do you like doing crowns and bridges? Do you like doing dentures? Do you like root canals? Do you like extract? Think about all those things as you're going through dentistry and you're experiencing them. And even if you don't go straight out of graduating dental school into a specialty program, always keep it in the mind as something that you can go back and do, because people do that. It is
for sure.
allowed for you to go out there, work for a couple years as a GP, and then come back and do a specialty. That is
For sure.
definitely something that you're allowed to do. And I mean, it's also possible to do what I do and completely change your career afterwards as well.
Mhm,
um, but what I would say is, just while you're in dental school, enjoy your time there, but don't be so laser focused and just end of the tunnel, and make sure that you look side to side and see all the other options that are available for you.
wow, that's a really good advice. So I guess with that, Liz, would you like to pose the
Yeah,
last question?
thank you so much, Dr. Mohan. It's been a pleasure hearing from you and learning about the unique service that I'm sure you'll be able to provide to all your clients. If you have any final remarks to add, we'd be happy to hear.
Nothing in particular. I just really want to thank you guys for the work that you're doing, trying to improve diversity in the dentistry and in the faculty and everything like that, and just keep up the work that you guys are doing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mohan, and we look forward to more collaboration, hopefully, with the law school and the dental school. I think, hopefully, as the COVID restrictions start loosening up, there might be more opportunities for in-person activities and collaboration in sort of different events. And hopefully, as summer comes, more opportunities start. So we will be in touch for sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Mohan, and I'm personally very inspired by your story. I definitely look up to you. I feel like you're definitely a hero for going back, changing your profession, going into a different school, and especially after taking a few years of work, it's just admirable. So thank you so much for giving us your time,
No problem. Thank you very much for having me,
and
guys.
have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye bye.